My guest at this time is Virginia Republican Congressman Dave Brat. He represents the Old Dominion's 7th Congressional District, and he is in a tough re-election battle against Democrat Abigail Spanberger. It's one of a number of congressional districts in Virginia held by a Republican, but severely targeted by the Democrats. And Congressman, thanks so much for being with us.
Hey, you bet. Thank you, Greg.
Well, we've got about 4 weeks left now until this midterm election, and the one poll I've seen from the New York Times has you up 4, but the margin of error is right around that same spot right now. So how do you see the race?
Yeah, I think after the Kavanaugh hearings, it's 4 plus a big upward bump. And I think the American people are finally zooming in, and so they're noticing that my opponent doesn't have a platform. She's not running on any issues whatsoever. So it really is kind of matching and mirroring the national piece. We have policy on health care. We win on open borders, liberal immigration policy. My opponents for sanctuary cities, we win. And my opponent said the tax cuts were dangerous. And so she's Nancy Pelosi on policy. And the rest is just resistance from the left. And I think the American people want to see some results up there. And so we got tax cuts. My district is booming. The jobs are doing great. There's more job openings than people searching. And everybody's seeing it, right? The unemployment rate are at all-time lows for African Americans and women, decades lows for Asians, young kids, Hispanics. And so we got a good news, results-driven message, and we're happy to take that to the voters.
Abigail Spanberger says that you have been an opponent of making sure people with pre-existing conditions have coverage. I know you fought back against that vigorously. What's the story there?
Yeah, well, I don't understand why it's a story, but the news, the mainstream media doesn't do news anymore. I mean, if everybody missed the memo, that was the biggest debate of the year, and we had the health care vote, and we all voted for pre-existing conditions. And so that shows you how the Democrats are hurting, right? We're ahead, they're losing, so they have to spread total pants-on-fire falsehoods. And everybody knows that was a key feature of our Republican health care plan. And I held it up at my town hall with a legislative text with pre-existing conditions in, and Abigail Spanberger was in the front row and saw it a long time ago. So she knows it. She's intentionally spreading that. So I'm glad you brought the issue up. Democrats, that's what they do in the last month of a campaign. When they're losing, they say their Republicans are going to take away Social Security and Medicare when we promised and are on the record pledging to protect those programs. We're good on pre-existing conditions. And then they really get personal. They did the personal destruction with Kavanaugh, et cetera. And so I don't think the voters like that. They want to see a more civil debate on policy.
Congressman, let's talk about your opponent a little bit, Abigail Spanberger. She has a background in the CIA, and also for a time before her tenure at the CIA, she was connected to an institution that has raised more than a few eyebrows. The media coverage of your campaign raising this issue has not been kind, but what do you want the voters in your district to know about her affiliations?
Well, she has not told the voters anything about her record or her resume. And so I think what you might be referring to is her work at the Saudi-funded terror high school. And she is telling people she worked at an embassy high school and taught Shakespeare, et cetera. But there's a government report out, put out by the Democrats, Schumer and Israel, to shut down the school because it was anti-Semitic, anti-Christian, anti-women, and full of hate, that you can kill people from other faiths, et cetera, if they disagree with you. And so that's what has come into question. The Washington Post did an essay on that school before she got the job. She went to work for the CIA after that, after teaching there. But the question is, if she went to the New York Times and said, I'm proud of teaching at that school. And that school produced terrorists and someone that wanted to kill a president, et cetera. And there's a U.S. government report saying that is not an embassy school. And so I think that's what you're talking about with that story. Mm-hmm. And no one in the news media has yet reported on it, on the facts of the story. And they've kind of hidden behind the process question, but they don't get to the meat and potatoes. And the easiest way to show the contrast is, can you imagine if a Republican taught at a school that was anti-Semitic, anti-Christian, anti-women, and a Saudi Wahhabi fundamentalist school. I mean, it'd be the front page of the New York Times for weeks.
I know we've only got about 90 seconds left, Congressman. Just this week, the current House Majority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, unveiling border security, build the wall legislation. I know immigration was a key issue in you initially getting elected to Congress. I know it's still an issue you're passionate about. So 2 quick questions in our last minute here. What do you think of the bill, and why is he rolling it out now instead of sometime in the past 2 years?
Well, yeah, I'm all in favor of it, and I hope it's a strong bill. I've been for the Goodlatte bill, which includes that plus other features, and so it's just all good news. We've had, some budgets that the president's not happy with. I'm not happy with the $1 trillion deficits, and we did not get wall funding. So I think that's why it's in now. It'll come up after the election, before January, and so I hope we keep our leverage there because it's 70 or 80% issue for the people, right? No one wants the cheap labor piece. We have 300 million lethal doses of fentanyl come across the border last year through our open borders, right? And the Democrats, my opponent, Spanberger's for sanctuary cities, Nancy Pelosi's for San Francisco sanctuary cities that actually provide a sanctuary for the drug dealers who commit crimes. And I don't know if the American people fully understand that, but that's what's at stake. And so it's long overdue. I'm happy they're bringing it up.
Congressman, we know you've got to run. Thank you, sir, very much for your time today.
Thank you, Greg. Anytime. Thank you.
You bet, sir. Virginia Republican Congressman Dave Brat represents his state's 7th congressional district, up for re-election against Democrat Abigail Spanberger on November 6th. I'm Greg Columbus reporting for Radio America.